On behalf of the Area Agency on Aging of Pasco Pinellas, I welcome you to Aging on the Suncoast. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services reports that approximately 70% of persons over age 65 will require at least some type of long-term care services. These services meet health or personal care needs by providing help with everyday activities of daily living. Care may be provided in the home, the community, or in a residential setting. Whether long-term care is provided in a nursing home or an assisted living facility, it is essential to ensure the health, the safety, the welfare, and the rights of these residents. During this segment, we will learn about the function of the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Annette Perry, who is the District Ombudsman Manager for Pinellas and Pasco Counties, and Cindy Floyd, an Ombudsman, join us to discuss this valuable program. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
It's been a while since we've discussed this program, and it's one of those ones that people in the community do not know about, and it's so very important. Annette, tell us what the mission of the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Council is.
Well, the mission is to protect, like you said earlier, the health, safety, and welfare and the rights of the residents that live in long-term care facilities, such as nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and adult family care homes.
And the Ombudsman programs were established nationally through federal legislation?
Correct.
But yet they are in our local communities. This program serves Pasco and Pinellas County?
Pasco and Pinellas County. Okay. And there's one in all the other counties as well. There's also nationally, every state has to have an ombudsman program set up.
Okay, and that's because our federal government at some point determined that it was so important that those people who are in a residential care facility have rights, and you are the mechanism by which those are protected.
Correct.
Ombudsman's a big word. What does that mean?
It's actually a Swedish word that means advocate. So we advocate for the residents that live in these facilities.
Okay. And Cindy, you are an ombudsman.
Yes.
And what does that mean? What is your role in this program?
To be an advocate for the residents of long-term care facilities. And the way we do that is to respond to their needs, to respond to complaints that they might have about the place that they're living, and to also to do assessments on facilities annually to see if there are any areas that need improvement. And we also do quarterly visits to some of the facilities as well.
So you keep an ongoing knowledge of these residences, and then you respond as questions come up or concerns come up.
That's right. We try to facilitate improvements from our observations and comments that are made by residents, and to develop a relationship with the administration and staff so that we can be of assistance in making their facilities the best that they can be.
What are some of the most common types of concerns or complaints that you get?
I would say medications.
And menu.
Okay.
Discharges.
Lack of respect of the resident by staff. Sometimes visitation rights.
Correct.
When you say I understand diet, that, you know, that's a personal preference, and so often that's so much a part of the quality of our life, and we don't realize that oftentimes until our choices are taken away from us and decided by other people. But medications, tell me.
Like maybe they're not getting their medications on time, in a timely manner. Sometimes it's just a miscommunication about their medications. Maybe one brand was a blue medication and the next one was a yellow one, and they don't understand why that change was made.
Okay, but they're wise enough to advocate for themselves, to know, which is so very important with medications, to question if you are not, it's not consistent with what you have had in the past.
Correct.
And when you get a complaint or concern, what action do you take?
We speak to the resident first of all.
Okay.
The complaint may come from many sources. It could come from a family member, or it may be anonymous, or it may come directly from the resident. And so we go and we speak with the resident first of all, and obtain their consent, because without their consent we can't get into confidential medical information. So we obtain a legal consent, and then we proceed to look to see what actually is happening. by looking at the chart, by looking at the medication record, by speaking with staff, all of those ways.
Trying to find a resolution.
And as a recognized advocate, you have entree to the staff and the administration to speak with them on behalf, once you have obtained the permission to speak on behalf
That's
of
correct.
the resident. So, how we will be running the telephone number. There is a toll-free telephone number statewide for the Ombudsman program, and my understanding is that if you, for instance, if I call from St. Petersburg, it is going to come directly to your office.
Correct.
And so if someone does have an interest in the program or a complaint, that is where they would start.
Correct.
Calling that number.
They would call that number.
There are specific rights that residents do have. Talk with me about those, Annette. What rights are afforded to individuals who are in
Well, they have a right
residential?
to have a safe place to live, free from abuse and neglect and exploitation. They also have the right to retain dignity and respect from the other people that live there and the staff. They retain the right to keep their own personal belongings, to go into medications. They have the right to participate in their own health care, so like in their care planning, such like that.
Now you mentioned visitation. Do they have
And
the right
visitation.
to have visitors?
Private visitation, too.
Okay.
They should be able to have private telephone calls, private visitation with family and friends, also to have private visitation with their husband or wife.
Okay. This is their home.
Correct. It's just
And-
it's their home.
You know, you're not only looking after that they receive proper medical care, but that they have quality of life.
That's
right.
You are the person speaking up for the individual, many of whom are very vulnerable due to medical situations or age. As an ombudsman, you are making the choice to be a voice.
We are, and one of the most important things along the line of resident rights is to advocate for them to speak up when they see something or when something is not the way they want, to talk to the staff, to resolve that, to have a voice.
So you are empowering them.
We're empowering them. We want them to be able to act as independently as possible.
Excellent.
And that is one of their rights as well.
Yes.
And the program is very dependent upon volunteers. Cindy, you're a volunteer.
Yes.
But volunteers such as Cindy to make this happen, aren't they, Annette?
Correct. It's all volunteer-based.
Okay. What motivates you, Cindy, to be a volunteer? How did you become interested in this?
Well, I have a background in healthcare to begin with, and I found after I retired that my desire to help hadn't gone away, and I wanted to put it to the best use. And I saw an advertisement in the newspaper that talked about the Ombudsman program, and I thought, this is something that you can do and make a difference. And the reason I stick with it is because we do make a big difference. And I'm rewarded every day when I'm able to help somebody.
How wonderful. And you need, I assume, more like Cindy that...
Absolutely. I mean, in all of Pinellas and Pasco County, we have over 20,000 residents in long-term care.
My understanding is that we have one of the highest numbers
Yes.
of nursing homes and assisted living
386
in our two counties.
long-term care facilities in our two counties, yes.
And so when you talk about visiting them annually or perhaps quarterly, takes a huge workforce, a huge volunteer force.
It does take a huge workforce, but we don't have a huge workforce.
There's about 35.
We would love to have more people help us, and if they join us, they will find it most rewarding. Right now, we have about 40 volunteers serving the two counties. We need a lot more.
Certainly.
About 36 active. There's a few people that are on leave of absence and situations like that, but yeah, we have about 36. So that's 100 facilities per. I mean, that's a lot of facilities.
And I assume the more that you have, the better, the more attention you can provide to
That's right.
each facility.
And the quicker we can respond and get a resolution to whatever's going on at the time.
Yes.
And the closer the more intimate relationship we can have with a facility, because the more we're known. We walk in and, oh, here's Cindy. She's the ombudsman. Talk to her about that issue.
And is that generally how it happens?
It happens frequently.
That's how you become aware of?
It happens frequently, and it just goes smoother and better when you've developed a rapport in a facility.
Plus, the residents start to trust you. They realize that you're actually there to help them.
Yes, how very important. Because when they move from their home into a residence, there's so many different people that are part of their lives. They have to come to know what everyone's role is, and the more you
and
are
just like with their continuity of care in the facility, they get used to seeing us as well.
Is there eligibility criteria for a volunteer who wishes to do?
Of course, you have to be over 18.
Okay.
But a desire to help others. That's our biggest requirement. Of course, you have to pass a background screening.
And is there training involved? This is a large responsibility.
Yes.
Is there mentoring?
There is training and mentoring. There's 5 2-hour modules online that they take. So that's 10 hours online. And then there's 2 days of classroom training with me. And then Cindy is a mentor. She takes people out on training out in the field.
And we take each individual on a minimum of 3 assessments and 3 complaint cases, start to finish. More if the person feels they need it. So it's quite a long training, but it can be longer, depend on each person, because until they're ready, they don't have to go it alone.
Correct.
Right. I would imagine you run into quite a variety of circumstances, and so if they know that there is support there from the Ombudsman program, that helps them to deal best with those circumstances. People who are interested in volunteering should call the same number that we will be running?
Yes, they can call that number, or they can call the local number, which is 727-588-6912.
Okay. And I hope some of our viewers will respond, because when you do volunteer work, you really want to do something that is meaningful, that makes a difference, and I'm certainly hearing that from what you are doing. We've talked about people who are already in the residential facility. Does the Ombudsman program have a role for people who are choosing a residence, who are moving from the home into either a nursing home or assisted living facility?
Yes, we do. And you can call into that same 2 numbers. Okay. And we can give you a facility summary, like how many complaints they've had at their facility that were verified. We can also give them an assessment of the facility that we did last year. So we can give them some information, really good information, so they can compare facilities and see, which ones might be better suited for them.
And that, of course, is so important, to find the match for the person of what their needs are to the facility that they are going to choose to live in.
Correct.
We have, I think our audience is probably well aware that nursing homes exist in the community, but I think oftentimes a choice that people overlook is assisted living facilities, and you, of course, work with both.
Yes, we do.
Both residences. During the second segment of the show, Annette, you'll come back and join us, and then we're going to have someone from the Florida Assisted Living Association, Donna Damiani, join us to talk more about assisted living facilities, and perhaps we can have this discussion about how to make a choice about where you're going to move. Thank you both for the important work that you do. It is so essential. You're an unknown secret in the community, a treasure that we don't hear talked about often. But thank you, and thank you for joining us this morning. I hope our audience has found this informative, and will join us for the second segment when we talk about assisted living facilities.
Elder abuse is always devastating, but it may not always be obvious. Isolation, coercion, and the withholding of medication are only a few of the more subtle forms of elder abuse that occur every day to thousands of our senior citizens. Please join me in the fight to end elder abuse. Our elders deserve better. Visit the website of the National Center on Elder Abuse. It's time to speak up.
During the first part of today's program, we discussed long-term care and the role of long-term care ombudsman counsel. During this segment, we have Donna Damiani joining us to discuss assisted living facilities. Donna is the Vice President of the Florida Assisted Living Association. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And Annette, we were, of course, talking about long-term care ombudsman counsel. Go back and tell us broadly, what is long-term care?
Long-term care is facilities that residents can live in that are assisted living facilities, nursing homes, and adult family care homes.
Okay. And Donna, talk with us about what is assisted living? What would one expect at an assisted living facility?
Assisted living is a social model. We are not a medical model. We are more of a home-like atmosphere for a resident. We also respect the health, safety, and welfare of those residents while they are in our facilities.
Okay. And assisted living facilities are licensed, as nursing homes are.
Yes, we are licensed through the Agency for Healthcare Administration.
And what type of services would be available at assisted living? Of course, there's going to be a room. There are going to be meals.
That is correct. And each facility is a little different. We range from anywhere from a 3-bed adult family care home up to a 420-bed assisted living facility. Some have their own private apartments. Some have the home-like setting where they would have an individual bedroom like you would in your home, or it could be a semi-private room.
Okay. And do the services vary that one would receive at an assisted living facility? What are the basic core services that one would receive?
Assist with the activities of daily living, which would be if they need assistance with bathing and dressing, supervision of self-administration of medication, assistance with transferring maybe from a wheelchair to a chair, assist with supervision with if they need to use a walker to get around.
Cleaning their rooms.
Cleaning their rooms.
And those are the basic services that every assisted living facility would provide?
Each one is different. They may have the model in my particular facilities. We provide assistance with all the activities of daily living for one set fee, and you may have facilities where they have add-ons for certain services.
Okay. And Donna, in addition to you are the Vice President of the Florida Assisted Living Association, so you see this globally for all assisted living throughout the state of Florida, but you also operate 2 assisted living facilities in Dunedin, the Heather Havens?
Correct, Heather Haven 1 and 2, and I have been in the profession going on 27 years.
Okay. Describe to me what Heather Haven looks like. What would one expect there? Because that's one type of assisted living.
Heather Haven is a home-like atmosphere. The first building actually sits on Edgewater Drive, faces the Dunedin Marina. So the residents feel very much at home in that environment. And with my residents, I may have a resident that wants to eat at 5:30 in the morning, and then I have a resident that doesn't want to be woken up until 10 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
So we try to meet their needs as if they were in their own home.
Okay. And then describe to me what an assisted living facility that has 200 residents or 300 residents, how does that differ?
Well, it's not as much individualized attention to the resident. When you have a smaller amount of residents, you're able to give them a little bit more individualized attention in that home-like atmosphere. It may differ in menus. It may differ in some of the bigger assisted livings bring in some outside private duty to help assist some of the residents.
Okay. And I think the activities sometimes are different too.
The activities are different because the residents in the smaller facilities compared to the bigger ones have their activity directors there, and they have constantly something going on all day long compared to something that's maybe a 3-bed facility.
Okay, so they each have their own character. Just as if we moved into one neighborhood, it would have a certain feel and character as opposed to another neighborhood or another city. That it's important to choose the one that matches both your needs as well as your personality.
Correct.
How does one start to do that, Annette?
I think you would probably start, and you'd probably agree with me, going to the ACA website, floridahealthfinder.gov.
Okay.
And you can look to see what's in your area, maybe what bed size, how many beds in that facility.
Okay.
You might want a smaller facility, so you could narrow it down that way to begin with.
Okay, and probably geographically, if you need to be close to a family.
And specialty license, too. You might need a limited mental health facility, you might need extended congregate care, or limited nursing services.
Okay, depending upon what your physical needs
Correct.
are to be addressed. And then do you advise a visit to
Absolutely. I think you should take a tour of, get a list of the facilities if you're looking for smaller facilities, and I think you should take a tour, and I think you should go at different times of the day to go in, and actually maybe ask if you can come in and have a meal there.
Okay.
That's an excellent idea.
It's a big choice. It's
Yeah.
one that you want to give great consideration to. Of course, in any choice that we make, the way that we are going to pay for it is a factor, the cost of it. Can you give us an idea of cost for assisted living and how those costs are met?
We have quite a variety of costs. Limited mental health facilities usually are under the Medicaid OSS and SSI program, where the government Medicaid will pay up to almost, with the Social Security, close to $1,000 a month.
Okay.
We also have what's called the waiver, and we have the diversion. But in February, Medicaid, as we know it, will go away, and it will be all long-term care, managed care.
Okay.
And right now there is a wait list, but people with a lower income under $1,859 a month would be eligible to go on the waiting list to help pay for the fees.
And these are individuals who would meet the level of care, the need that they could be eligible to go into a nursing home under Medicaid, both financially and by level of care, but they're choosing instead to go into assisted living.
That is correct. They need to meet the level of care for a nursing home to be put on the waiting list for the long-term care.
Okay. And of course there is private pay for
Yes, and it
assisted
can
living
range,
too.
like I said, from anywhere from adult family care homes that get close to $987 to $1,000 a month, all the way up to some of the big facilities that can go up to $4,500 to $5,000 a month.
Okay. And for those in our audience who are probably having sticker shock with those numbers, you know, these are individuals who have been living independently, probably in the community, hopefully own a home, which they are going to sell. They're transferring a lot of the costs that they had in their budget every month to one payment to
That is
assisted
correct.
living. So it's a transition, and one that they need to give great thought to, both in terms of choice of facility, but as well as the cost of the facility.
That is correct.
Are there persons who would not be eligible for assisted living because their care needs are so great that they would be more appropriate to be placed in a nursing home? What is that distinction?
That is correct. They have to be the facility has to meet the needs of that resident, and there are people that truly cannot live in a least restrictive environment, which is an ALF, and need to be in a skilled nursing facility.
One of those things is you'd have to be ambulatory. You have to be able to get around to be in an assisted living.
They have to be able to transfer.
Right.
They have to be able to transfer with assistance to be in an assisted living facility.
Like from their bed to to a chair.
Okay.
Correct, with assistance, yes.
Right.
Okay, so the person who has to be in bed
Yeah.
24/7 is generally not going to be.
It's not appropriate for an assisted
Right.
living facility, would need long-term skilled nursing facility. That is correct.
And that needs 24-hour care too.
That is correct. We also, in assisted living facilities, allow them to age in place with hospice, but under hospice, they have to make sure that the facility can meet the needs of the resident when the hospice provider is not in the building.
Okay. And you've mentioned special licenses. The mental health and the extended care, what
Yes.
does that involve?
There is limited mental health, which would, any facility that has 3 or more mental health in their building with a diagnosis of a true mental health illness needs to carry a limited mental health license for their facility.
Meaning that staff has had special training, or?
That is correct.
Okay.
They have to go to special classes to be able to work with the limited mental health. Then we have limited nursing services, extended congregate care services, where there's a nurse oversight, where they can have somebody possibly with a colostomy bag or needing some further nursing assistance.
Okay, so that gets a bit more into the medical
Correct.
arena. What do you find the advantages are for people who move from their homes into assisted living?
I think being around other residents in the building, I see them blossom when I go and meet somebody that's isolated. And at first there is a fear. If you bring them into your facility and you allow them to have lunch and meet the other residents. I have one gentleman that we did that, and he didn't go back to where he was living before, and he has blossomed unbelievable, and he's probably been there about 3 years now.
I know personally I have seen situations where the individual has been living at home and increasingly has needs that they cannot meet. So they're not getting the best nutrition, they're not getting medications regularly, and by moving into assisted living where there's some oversight over that, the person blossoms into the person that they're meant to be. They're having the best quality of life because they do have that needed support.
Yes, that is correct. And keeping the home-like setting with, like we were mentioning, menus and meals being the complaint. We have residents, ours are done by a dietitian, a licensed dietitian, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's what they want to eat. So you have to offer, like you were in your own home, something else other than what's on that menu. And to have an open door policy in your kitchen, if they want a snack at 2 o'clock in the morning like they're used to having at home, you need to allow them to have that.
We mentioned that there were over almost 400,
386 facilities just in Pasco and Pinellas County.
And that's nursing homes or assisted living or both together?
Both together.
Okay, and assisted living?
Well, we represent right now in the state of Florida over 550 assisted living through the Florida Assisted Living Association.
And what is the role of the association, Donna?
We're an organization to make sure that the facilities we were providing, once again, the health, safety, and dignity of the residents that are living in them. And some of the facilities that have a little harder time, we ask them to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to go into that facility and work with them to make sure that the resident is properly taken care of and the needs are being met.
So you, again, are advocates for residents in a different way, and I would assume advocates for the assisted living facilities themselves when it comes to being a voice in terms of policy or legislation.
That is correct. We have legislative days in February, and we recommend to our facilities to have the politicians come in, the representatives and the senators, to take tours of the building to understand what assisted living is compared to what skilled nursing facilities are, because they need to understand what we do compared to what a skilled nursing facility does.
Okay, well, you have certainly provided a wealth of information. I feel that both I and hopefully our audience has gained a much better understanding that assisted living is an option out there. It's not just home or the nursing home, that there's a step in between that is a more home-like setting and more socially oriented. I thank both of you for being with us today, and I thank our audience for joining us. I hope this information was of help to you today.
Hi, I'm William Maypother. I play Ethan Rahm on the TV show Lost. Let me tell you about a truly lost population. Every single day, thousands of our elderly citizens are subjected to abuse, emotional, financial, physical. Worse, the majority of people who commit these acts are those closest to the victim. Please join me in the fight to end elder abuse. It's time to speak up. Our elders deserve better.